This week on Square Up with GraySquare.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Square Up with GraySquare. Landon Atkinson here, and I'm hanging out with Mr. Dennis Hennigan, CEO of Growth Winners Digital. So he's got a lot of stuff to share with us today. He's a cool guy with some cool experience. We actually connected through Instagram. So it's always good to talk to a fellow entrepreneur. So let's jump into it, man. So Dennis, if you want to start off, give us a rundown. Who are you? What are you up to these days? What do you got going on?
What's happening? So first off, thank you so much for letting me join on this.
Absolutely.
Been talking with Catalina, part of your company, for a while. Super
Yeah.
excited, and took a couple months to get into it because I got married. That's one thing that's recently happened. Got married, had the honeymoon, had a lot of stuff going on. Early spring this year.
That kind of takes a little priority over business sometimes.
Right. Yeah. No, trust me, I was definitely still kind of irking to get back at it. It's just the life of the entrepreneur. But in a nutshell, my name is Dennis. And actually, I'm a co-owner of Dreamers Event Rentals, which is an event rental company, tents, tables, chairs, for big events, weddings, corporate events, stuff like that. And really, I handle the marketing there. As an entrepreneur, anybody knows that you're dealing with the day-to-day stuff and managing a team and things like that. And that's honestly what sucks up most of my time because that's the primary company. And honestly, the Growth Winners Digital has come from my true passion, which is marketing, to where I've really branched off to start an agency, which is very early in the process right now. And that's honestly, in my experience, it's the best part about it, is to go from that starting level to get to the entry level of business, because we've done it. This will be 2020 will actually be 10 years in business with Dreamers Event Rentals.
No kidding.
Right. So going 10 years in business, it's like I've learned so much through the process. So starting an agency, with Growth Winners Digital, that entry point is the most exciting time because you get to create exactly what you want out of it. And, it's the bare bones. So that's the nutshell of of who I am right now. And I'm sure I know we got a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah.
We'll really dive into exactly, how I can best serve your audience and everybody listening right now.
That's cool, man. That's good stuff. So is your intention with this business to be similar to what you're doing currently, or completely different in terms of like the service that you're going to put out and what you're doing for customers and things like that?
Right. No, it's definitely more on amplifying what I do day to day. So anybody can really market. I kind of related a little bit to a photographer where like people are building websites in agencies, but they're built on Wix, or they're built on, they're just kind of getting by to say they have an agency and I'm not going to say that, not going to hold myself to more than what I actually am. But the truth is my backstory is kind of what actually creates where I am today in my own company. And what I'm getting at is basically we used to pay an agency to market for Dreamers Event Rentals. And my story starts with a cup of coffee with a friend. And it's kind of embarrassing where I'm at now, because we went to this coffee shop, right? And he owns TheraFit. He owns TheraFit Rehab in Westminster, where we're at. And I'm bragging to him saying, hey, check this agency out who we use. They're so great. Check this out. Check this out. And he's literally looking at me and he's like, quiet, right? And so next thing you know, he kind of just exposed everything. He's like, that's built on WordPress. That's just Google Analytics. That's just, and he's just like laying it out. And to me, I'm like, what's Google Analytics? Like, what is that? And it opened up a whole new world to me. So the next step for me in marketing specifically was to convince, because at this time we were in business with two of my brothers. There was three owners total. And one fell off last year. No big deal. He went and did his own thing. No problem. So now there's still two of us. But at the time, there was three of them. And I had to meet with my friend and then go tell them, hey, I'm going to make the bold decision to take over all the marketing. Like, I was just so excited. I jumped in, and it was a bold decision, and that's kind of what I would love to tap into later, is like taking action on what, and trusting who you really are. So long story short, being completely humble about it, our company has taken off and grown ever since I took over. And that's been the most exciting and relieving thing, that, once you start taking action on the things that you want, it's amazing, how much potential you actually have as an entrepreneur. And that's honestly my favorite part about entrepreneurship is you can create, you are the head of whatever you want to make it, and that's just been the exciting part of the journey.
Dude, that's awesome. That's such a cool story. It really is. I got a marketing degree in 2007. And what's funny is like I meet people all the time that do marketing now that have like a traditional marketing degree, right out of school. And it's so different from anything that I learned. Like, I don't even know if I'd be qualified for like an entry-level marketing gig with like my resume at this point. But it's funny you mentioned like taking an existing business and just kind of spinning off and kind of pivoting. Our story is not that different. Like our company, GraySquare, man. Like, to keep it simple, like we were started by a handful of guys working for a really, really big company that thought we could just do it better on our own, with more control and kind of have our own way instead of, work for the whole dollar instead of, pennies, so to say.
Gotcha.
And just keep moving. So that's really cool, man.
Right.
So what the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which, that's so sick that you're focused on the thing. It's so cool.
I mean, that's literally like, I know we're going to dive into this, but
it's so
for
great.
all the entry level entrepreneurs, because I know when we had discussed about this podcast, who the audience is for the new entrepreneurs, you've literally got to be focused and take action. Like it's everywhere, and once you start making that who you are every single day, that's when you start to see the results in your life. Yeah.
So like, so if you're just listening to this, you don't see it on a video. My man's got his targets for the day, I guess, like his ambition, like the words focus and action written on a oh, come on. He's got his goals written on a water gun. That's so
I'm telling you got to be obsessed with it. You got to be completely invested.
This is a little off topic and everybody's going to give me a hard time for this, but I saw Nashville written on there. What's that about?
So
I grew up in Nashville.
So
State of Tennessee, 615.
All right. Awesome. So those are my primary things that I focus on day to day.
Yeah.
And part of that is Nashville because I live in Hanover, Pennsylvania. For whoever's listening, Hanover's a pin dot on the map of Pennsylvania, and right 20 minutes from the line to Maryland. And my wife and I, we had discussed moving south eventually, right? And we have so many conversations about it of like when, you know what I mean? Like we got married, we have 2 kids together, still very young. And we've got our whole lives ahead of us. So when, and I'm just telling her like, that's something else we could totally touch base on and switch gears on. But like my wife, I love her to death, but that's something that I would love to maybe touch base on is how to deal with a partner that isn't really as obsessed as you are with it, in the process and the entrepreneurial mindset and stuff like that. So it's kind of been me leading the way on that and just kind of creating a vision for us. And she's even been in agreement. Like we've looked at Atlanta, we've looked at a couple different places.
Okay.
We've never been to Nashville yet, but we literally just at least temporarily right now, that's where we want to go.
That's what you want to do. Dude, that's so cool.
That's in the vision 100%.
That's so awesome, man. So I grew up there. Obviously I'm in Boston now, but I grew up in Nashville. If you guys need, this is an official statement. We're shooting the next episode of this podcast. Part 2 of this will be on Broadway in Nashville, at a bar with country music in the background. That's where the follow-up call happens. That's what you and I are going to do.
Awesome. Oh my
gosh. We'll shoot the follow-up of this down there.
Yep. Save this. Absolutely. I cannot wait for that. Yep.
That's great stuff, man. So I'll jump into the first question that I had like on my list. So, as you mentioned, you're kind of running your day-to-day now, and kind of doing your vision on the side. You have the 9 to 5 and you have the 5 to whatever hour you're allowed to continue working at your house. What do you think, let's take it this way. So if I'm considering that, like there's a lot of people out there that have, some cool idea, but it currently nets them $0 a week in pay. So they can't really do it full time. And they got bills to pay. So what do you recommend for somebody that's trying to pull something off on the side? How do you manage it? How do you get your significant other on board? Like what's that like for you? Like how do you manage running a business with customers and things like that, like and doing this on the side?
So part of my day-to-day, luckily, I consider myself, and this will help a lot of people, I guess, hopefully inspire them who would classify themselves as introverts. Like I have a difficult time, dealing with something like that. So in my day-to-day, I do have my own little office. I handle marketing, I handle operations, and more or less I've taken on a visionary role in our company where I've been completely blessed to trust a team. I will say this probably for the next 30 years, if not for the rest of my life. The number one mistake that I truly believe, whether you're starting out or you quote unquote have made it, the biggest mistake I believe that entrepreneurs make is they try to do everything themselves. The mentality of, if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself, is going to continue to keep you, in prison, in entrepreneurial prison, right?
Yeah.
Locked up. And in our business specifically, like literally speaking from experience, I've grown more in the past 18 months, specifically delegating work to more of a team, not focusing on perfection where it's got to be 100%, it's got to be my way, except 80%. If you've got 10 people, because right now we've got about 14 or 15 people with us, and if I can get all of them at least to 80%, like that's the entry level, like just do it 80% of what I would do, and that will allow us to scale. But if you spend so much time focusing on getting everybody to 100%, chances are it's not going to happen. Like even the people at the top, they're not going to do the things that, because if somebody cares more about your business, to me, it's like, then they should be running it, right? Like it's very encouraged to care about your company and love what you do and build a culture, which is kind of what we focus on with our company. But I've been able to transition getting our team on board with the vision, and delegating and trusting that they can manage and share the same vision that we have and be a part of the journey and the process as well. So for me, it's like making that transition. The biggest mistake entrepreneurs that I at least see make is they try to they have that traditional mindset of, I got to do it myself, and that is, if you're going to be a freelancer, that's great. But if you have any chance of scaling or growing to the next level, which I break down is, and I've kind of made this up on my own just through practice and learning and listening to other people speak, is there's three modes, in my opinion, there's three modes in life. There's survival mode, there's stable mode, and there's scaling mode. When people, if you're just starting out, you're balancing the 9 to 5, or you're in college and you're just, there's something ticking inside of you that is bigger, that is better. In my opinion, you have to first, I don't care how big the dream is, you got to at least survive, right? You've got to eat. I mean, Mark Cuban talks about eating ramen. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, getting a bunch of buddies and sharing a room and whatever it takes. That's survival mode. That's literally the process of being in survival mode. Just paying your bills, having enough money for beer on the weekends, you're in survival mode. And the first step is to be self-aware of where you're actually at. Don't try to pretend that you're some big shot in scale mode when you're surviving, and if you are authentic to who you are, you know exactly what you want, or at least you have an idea of what makes you tick. Take care of survival mode until you can get to the next level, and then you worry about scaling your business from there. But I feel like people try to leap too fast or try to pretend, and then next thing you know, they're unhappy because they were focused on what it could have been or what they wanted it, and then it ended up never being that thing to begin with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No matter what it is, lawn care, photography, online agency, anything,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I couldn't agree with you more. So would you say survival mode is kind of where, all right, I got to keep my day-to-day thing going, and I got to understand that this is crucial to keep me going, and then sort of at least have a game plan of how to get out of that? Or is it when one income replaces another, or is it when, like, what's like kind of the tipping point?
Gotcha. So the best way I could describe this is if you were to compare my life specifically, and I can only speak from my experience at this moment, is me probably 3 years ago, I wouldn't even be on this conversation. I wouldn't even be having this call with you right now because I wouldn't have time. I had it programmed in my mind that I was busy, and Parkinson's Law, work fills the amount of time that you allow it. So it's like, whether I had actually a lot to do or I didn't have a lot to do, I was going to fill that time with something no matter what, right? And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs do that. And not to mention, on top of that, half the stuff they're doing, you have to remember that you have to contribute, especially early on. If you're going to generate a profit, you have to contribute to things that actually are benefiting to your main goals. So if your goal is to launch the business and you're sitting there dwelling on how the website looks, you have to rewind, hit reverse, and ask yourself, in this moment, is this contributing to profiting? What are your most profitable actions that you can take? And when you start reversing those actions and you look at your time throughout the day, look at how much time is spent on social media. I haven't checked in a while. I knew a while back, but the average time that people spend just scrolling mindlessly on Facebook and Instagram and checking email, that comes down to daily habits. That comes down to, what are you doing with your time? So do the 9 to 5, like literally, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, like you had mentioned, how do you transition from it? Let's just put it this way. If you feel busy working a 9 to 5 and you don't have any time, you'll never survive as an entrepreneur, because you have to create the time. And a quote I literally wrote down that I wanted to mention on here was, priority creates time. That's something that I've lived by as well. If you want it, you will find the time. Because that's all life is you're scaling. You're just, is this worth it or is this worth it? Opportunity cost. And when you want something bad enough to go all in on it, you'll find the time. You'll skip the video games. You'll skip reruns on Netflix. You'll skip, wasting time playing your favorite game on your phone. You're like, truth be told, I have a game on my phone that I love, and it's poker. I can play poker for 20, 30 minutes straight. But those are not to get off topic, but those are things that just, break away from your day to day to regain focus. I read a lot and I do these activities to keep the mind re-energized. But at the same time, those daily habits, if you really want it, you'll find you will literally make the time to do it.
Yeah, no, that's solid stuff. It reminds me of kind of what you were saying earlier, with, the ability to delegate, and not think that you can do it all yourself. I mean, that kind of hit home for me. I think that's my biggest sin as an entrepreneur. I think one of my biggest sins as an entrepreneur is control, the need for control. And there are times where I have to take a step back, because the fact that, quote unquote, as you said, no one will care as much about your business as you do, is mind blowing to me. Right. When I'm the only guy in the company working at 4 a.m., or whatever time I pull off, all hours of the day, and I can't get anybody to. So I'm like, why are these people not killing themselves every day like I am? It's crazy. Why would you even work here? But yeah, and what that kind of results into is, no one cares. I got to do it all. Right. At least for me, from like a psychology standpoint. And I don't think I'm alone in that mindset, right? At times being guilty of, I got to do it all myself. Nobody else is caring as much as I do. What do you say for somebody like that? Because like you seem to have it all, like, or at least that component figured out on paper. Of like, I'd like you to go into a little more of the like measuring quality of when I can delegate, right? Like, how do you decide what's worth the time, what's not worth the time? Does that make sense?
Oh, it definitely makes sense. And I'll speak a lot on leadership. And okay, so I am a huge advocate for reading. I try to get through at least a book a month. And one of, hands down, the best books and it goes right into this, one of the best books I ever read on business processes and systems specifically is the book Traction by Gino Wickman. I don't know if you've read it. It literally says how to get a grip on your business. And I read that, and I'm not joking. I think he literally wrote that for me, because as I'm reading it, I'm just thinking to myself, holy shit, like this is the breakthrough. This is the moment. And because it matched me with where I am in the business, where we're at, where we're in this pivotal position to kind of delegate and trust the team and to expand and get a second location and reinvesting capital, like getting everybody on board. That's really what it comes down to. So for me, it's a lot with leadership, and no disrespect whatsoever to my own team, that I don't know if they'll hear this or not, whether they listen to podcasts, but my own team, we've got guys that come back year after year, because it's a seasonal business. They find something, they're either in college, a lot of them. We've got salary guys that are full-time, but then we also have these guys that are still figuring it out for themselves. They're going to college, all year long, and then they come with us for the summertime. They come back for $12, $13 an hour doing, it's tent rentals. It's a lot of physical labor. And I've asked myself this question, like, why do they stay? Like, they could easily go get a banker's job or whatever. They could easily find a million different better alternatives to working with our company. But what we've created here is the culture. And I mean, I could see it a lot with your company. I can see it that when you build the culture, you'll have people that prioritize the vision and the culture itself and the happiness that they get when showing up to work. That's what we've kind of focused and build around with our team building more than we worry about, you know, the money or et cetera. Cause I mean, I love money as much as the next person. I'm extremely driven, especially if you're in the entrepreneurial space, you're driven on money, but it's the fastest way to be unhappy because I promise you, you'll always chase more. Like I've made more money now than I have in the past. And I look at me now, like we're going to chase the next step. There is no, you know what I mean? It's a ladder. And, so you have to really identify as the entrepreneur, you have to identify what you're chasing outside of money. Money is just the result of the business that you're growing. Like that's the exchange with your customer monetarily. But on a higher level, it's the happiness. If I cannot stand seeing entrepreneurs, not even entrepreneurs, but anybody, blue collar workers, anybody in the workspace that is literally waking up miserable. I have a friend, he was Snapchatting me the other day. It was last Friday, and he literally Snapchatted, going off topic here.
Yes.
He sent me a Snapchat, and he said, can't wait for 4:30. And I sent him back, stop it. Like, you've got to be grateful. You've literally, like, your mindset is broken. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care anything. But for a human, I mean, literally, you get one life and you are going to count down the minutes until you can stop doing the thing that you do all week long. I don't understand that. To me, I cannot comprehend that, you know.
It's insane.
But not to get too off topic on the delegation part, you obviously have to afford it. In my opinion, we've been in some different situations, such as one of our brothers exiting the company. It allowed us to hire other people to fill that role. And we actually, it was kind of like cap space on a football or professional sports team. It's like, whoa, you know, his salary or what he was making, we can now go out and, you know what I mean? And we delegated the work. But going back to the traction book, it's crazy because we have this thing called a accountability chart, which is basically seats with positions and who should be doing what. And when for my day-to-day outside of the marketing, it's more of the visionary, which I got from that book. Part of my role is the big picture. It's the systems. It's the optimization. It's literally, you know, why are we doing this when we could be doing this, or, you know, projections, and just getting completely efficient with our operations to deliver a better product, a better service, a better everything that we can, maximize that while maintaining profitability. Like for our company specifically, you do have high ticket items where it's, you know, we do generate $8,000, $4,000, $3,000 jobs at a time. But we also have $60, $100, $200 jobs. So there's a big difference in profitability. So what I've done and spent a lot of time on is to not get blindsided by the revenue. Stop focusing on generating more sales and more sales and more sales. Because, you know, you could have a $500 job and only make 200, you know, net, or you could have a $3,000 job, you know, and net something significantly better. So your margins are what is more important in that aspect. So before you can even delegate work out to yourself, I believe that you have to create the system with where you're at as an entrepreneur. So if you're a solo entrepreneur, build your system around you wearing all the hats because you can't afford labor. And then when you can take one piece out of the pie, to me, there's about 5 or 6 major in all companies of all sizes. You've got HR, you've got finance, you've got sales, marketing, operations, and customer service or something like that. Like you basically have about 5 or 6 major categories. From that moment, starting out solo, you are going to have to do everything yourself. You are going to have to wear every hat. But in order to get to that next level, I think you truly have to trust when you can financially make that happen. You have to take off one at a time. You don't just split it 50-50 or et cetera. You eat away at the pie.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This is all good stuff. I'm just sitting back listening. You got some. I
was going to say, definitely cut me off.
No, you're good. You got awesome, a lot of good stuff.
Because I can definitely get on rants for sure. And once I do, I
do the same thing, man. I do the same thing. So let's take an example, right? I'm doing my 9 to 5. I've got my side hustle, and let's say it's in the digital space, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to, because that's what a lot of people are trying to do these days is get people to let them do consulting work for them on the side. I've got that business, it's moving around. In your opinion, should my first big task be to get to where I can do this full time, or get a full-time person who can generate more activity? Who do you think is like the priority, yourself or some people that you can delegate to?
Gotcha. I mean, I think it could definitely go both ways depending on what it is. I mean, for example, if you're a wedding photographer and you want to start a wedding photography company, you're going to have to get out there and take those photos before you can, split the margins or whatever and just hire somebody to do the work. I personally think that's, a different scenario versus something such as lawn care. And I'm just relating to service businesses off the top of my head. You could pay somebody to kind of help you out and cut a few lawns while you're doing your day-to-day. Because, I mean, honestly, that's actually how we started with Dreamers. Again, we're going to go into our 10th year next year. So way back, I mean, I was, 16, 17 years old, still in high school. We were doing auto detailing. My brother is my business partner, Kevin, and he had Hampstead Detailing, so local auto detailing, mobile. We would come to your work, to your house, whatever, clean your car, had a trailer. We had everything. And he was focusing on transitioning to the rentals while I was getting out of school and I was cleaning these cars,
Sure.
So I guess that's the best relation I could say from personal experience is, he delegated the work to us, my other brother as well, while he then started booking jobs for the rentals. And then we would all do that, on the weekends and stuff. So it is a slow transition. I mean, I think that when entrepreneurs expect or, again, try to bite off more than they can chew, back to the biggest mistake I think they make is they try to do everything themselves. The second biggest in relation with that is doing things without any mentorship. If you go into things not knowing what you don't know, it's going to cost you a ton more in the mistakes. And you take the trial and error approach. The trial and error approach is necessary because you're constantly being told to take action. And I would even advise that as well.
So obviously people jump in your business for different reasons, as you've expected, like whether that's a temporary role with kind of the seasonality of it. And then there's also people that are, kind of in a space where they're looking for some longevity. I have a similar experience in my business where we have some people that jump in our offices for internships or for just different experiences they can take some other place. Obviously, they're going very different directions. So you can't just kind of sell a generic vision as like the entrepreneur to kind of go back to like, not everybody's as crazy as you are, as an entrepreneur, for both of us. How do you go about that? Like, how do you go about finding what people want and trying to deliver it to them?
So especially in our business, with the rentals with it being seasonal, it is the biggest challenge, honestly, with the matching the labor with our vision was to find guys that are going to stick around when it's snowing outside. There's not a lot of work to be done. And, before we were blessed to be able to afford salary, employees, we had this constant battle of like, just honestly having people hold on to this future idea. We've been so lucky for the people that we have. They have held on. The guys, one of the guys that's with us on salary right now, he's been with us for 4 years. And those 4 years, we just kept sharing that vision with him and saying, not telling him one day and stringing him on, but just stick with us. And we promise we'll over deliver on that. Cause that's who we are, is if we say it, we're going to do everything we possibly can to make it happen. But with the guys, even that we have now, because we have more labor than we've ever had, we've got more sales, more growth, more everything. It's game changing. It's game changing for us. So to sit here and like, it's just as new to us as the first 100,000 was. When we first hit, 6 figures, it's like, okay, how are we going to manage this? And then you figure it out. How do you manage 500,000? We figure it out.
Right.
So the transition, especially relating back to getting everybody on board with the same vision while being temporary or seasonal, the thing for us is we're just transparent with it. Like, you could totally be that boss, type of leader where it's like, you need to show up, you need to do this, you need to invest in the vision, and they just don't care, right? Like, it's not the same mentality where we kind of, again, back to what I had said about being an entrepreneur, you get to create the vision, you get to create the mentality. And that's one thing we've spent so much time, especially this season alone, is focusing on the culture. And we have bi-weekly meetings. I actually have it tomorrow around 1:00. I'm going to be meeting with the team on a bi-weekly meeting, and it's going over these goals, going over core values. We literally, we set core values and we set the vision. We tell everybody our goals throughout the whole company, because now you've got the person that doesn't really know why he's here, doesn't really know what he's doing.
Sure.
He just shows up for work and does what he has to do because the boss said so. You know, the operations manager said, do it. No. You're contributing to something so much bigger. And once you have a higher purpose, even if it's at the lowest level, when you have a higher purpose, I think people invest in that. I truly, and I mean, with losing a few people to going back to college, the fourth quarter is always a little bit challenging to find enough labor. You're asking people to kind of help out at this point just to finish the year strong in the rental space. And with that, our operations manager came to me the other day and he's like, hey, I think this guy's really good, but, I don't think he's going to be motivated out there, or he's going to be strong, or, he looks a little scrawny because it's a physical demanding job out there.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm telling him, I said, Johnny, I don't care how good they are. We invest in people. Does he smile? Is he respectful? Does he look, how does he talk? And once you can invest in people in your business, the skills can come. We can train and develop, and we've dealt with those growing pains. Is stop focusing so much, again, back to that 100% rule, stop focusing so much on getting them up to speed on the skills. That's something you can teach and develop. But the person, those are the things, right? Those are the people that's the thing that I believe, makes the difference in a company is, are they going to share that vision? You could have, I mean, you could see it in sports all the time. You've got the best athlete, Antonio Brown, with current, events. You've got the best athlete, but the Raiders let him go because he doesn't share the vision of John Gruden and the rest of the people there, in Oakland. So we carry that same exact mentality with our work. Is we want to invest in people. And even though we know on the back end that they're only going to be with us for a select amount of seasonality. Exactly. We know that and it's been experienced. We have people that 3 years later, they moved on to their career. They got the job. They were in college, and that's great. We encourage that. And that's the difference, is like, we don't want to give false hope and say, hey, you need to be with us, and, you better come back next year. Hey, when you're here, your family, your culture, and we're going to encourage and do everything possible. So it's that trade-off it's that level of respect that we've just completely spread throughout our company. And from the top to the bottom, we like
it pays dividends, man. It really does.
Yep. And it I'm telling you, this year alone we've taken so many leaps, and it kind of got ahead of us a little bit a couple months ago, where it's like, and matter of fact, our operations manager, I had a conversation with him. I said, are you sure everything's good? Like, cause you guys are like just crushing it. And it felt like it was too good to be true. It's like, I felt like we were missing a step in the process, but just through development and focusing on what you actually want. And again, like I had said before, spending all your time on what you want versus wasting time on stuff that actually doesn't even matter. We've just been able to get so much more done as a team, delegating the work, and overall as a company.
No, that's solid stuff, man. And to go back to your point of transparency, I think, I think radical transparency at least provides people to very quickly understand who you are and what you're trying to pull off. I've always found that I mess everything up all of the time. But I'm super transparent about it, and what I'm trying to do, what the company is trying to do, what our objectives are. And I've found, especially in the last year, as we've grown a good bit here too, that people don't expect perfection out of you. They just want a genuine person that is going in a direction that they're confident in. We could talk forever about that, man. This is really good stuff, man. Well, this has been awesome, man. I definitely appreciate your time and hanging out with us, man. And I hope we can do this again, in the near future, whether that's 100%. In Nashville or whether that's
100%. Mark my words, we will be in Nashville sharing a beer together. It's going to be an awesome recap and part 2 to this for sure.
Absolutely, man. Well, so for people that want to say hey to you, how can they pull that off? Where can they find you online?
Definitely. I've invested a lot of time on Instagram, at Dennis Hennigan on Instagram. I do a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of Facebook, but I'm definitely trying to spread everything over to Instagram for sure. Nice. So at Dennis Hennigan, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll be sharing this like crazy. It'll take us.
Awesome.
We'll plug the hell out of it, man. We'll send some stuff your way.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Dennis, man, this was an absolute pleasure, and I hope we can do it again sometime, man.
Of course. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Cheers, man. You got it.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Later.